We're back live in studio with Governor Gary Johnson, running for the Libertarian nomination to be President of the United States. News Talk 970 WMAY. If you've got a question for Governor Johnson, give us a call, 217-629-7970 at 823 News Talk 970 WMAY. Governor, we were talking about the Libertarian philosophy, and you raised the website isidewith.com. It's a website people can go and take a political quiz. It's pretty detailed, but shouldn't take too much of your time. And you're speculating that once people take this, they'll find what out?
Well, they'll find out that they're libertarian and that maybe Gary Johnson will be at the top of that list. And you know what? If it's Hillary Clinton, knock yourself out. Support Hillary. It seems to me that we all owe it to ourselves to see just how we do align with the candidates when you take a very objective quiz.
The listener contact line again, 217-629-7970. You're on News Talk 970 WMAY with Governor Gary Johnson. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Alex. I'm calling out of St. Louis, Missouri. And I just had a question for Gary.
Good.
Gary, big fan of what's of your just general view on everything. I just had a quick question. I was curious how you felt about possible Republicans that would not support Trump, possible Democrats that would not support their realistic outcome, Hillary, and how you thought you could maybe capture enough of the people looking to go somewhere else from both parties, and maybe what's possible to get on enough ballots to make yourself a possible solution for the problems in America.
Thank you for the question.
Well, Alex, I really think that Trump alienates more than half of Republicans. I said earlier that I made the same pitch to New Mexicans that Trump is making to America. But you know what? I didn't say anything as ridiculous as I'm going to deport 11 million illegal immigrants. I didn't say anything as ridiculous as building a fence across the border. And I'm talking now about being a border governor. I never said anything as ridiculous as I'm going to kill the families of Muslim terrorists. I'm going to kill the families of Muslim terrorists. Donald Trump, he says I'm free market, but I'm going to force Apple to make their iPads and their iPhones in the United States. Eminent domain. Look, as governor of New Mexico, I think property rights are a cornerstone of our society, and as governor of New Mexico in 8 years, I never once implemented or exercised eminent domain, believing that property rights are a big, like I say, a cornerstone. So I think there is an opportunity. I think people are really, really disillusioned. When you have the Republican nominee going out and catering to 30% of the far right, when you have the Democrat going out and catering to 30% of the far left, when you have 50% of Americans right now saying that they're independent, I think that mathematically, with the two major parties, you've got 30% representation of the electorate. Well, that's just not the way it is. So I do think there's an opportunity to potentially be at 15% in the polls, even if the lawsuit against the Presidential Debate Commission is not successful.
And that's something that you're hoping is successful so that you can get a spot on that debate stage for the general election debates.
And Greg, to stress, it will be the Libertarian nominee. I am seeking that nomination,
right,
but
sure.
But that is very possible. And let me also just reiterate: there's no way that a third party wins the presidency without being in the general election debates. No way.
News Talk 970 WMAY listener contact line 629-7970 with Bishop on Air. Joined in studio by Gary Johnson, Libertarian candidate to be the Libertarian nominee for president. And Gary, let's talk a little bit more about differentiating yourself from the other candidates that are out there in the Republicans and Democrats. You talked about Donald Trump. He's the presumptive front runner right now, taking up all kinds of states. Talk about Bernie Sanders, who's kind of been the anti-establishment guy on the left.
Well, what I find to be really interesting is Bernie and I are 180 degrees when it comes to free market and as opposed to socialism. But I just found it really interesting that on the website I side with, when it comes to I side when it comes to siding with, I side most with myself.
Imagine that.
But then in second place at about 73% is Bernie Sanders. Well, clearly that's about civil liberties. That's about military intervention. The other third, which is, I think, very, very important, is dollars and cents. And look, when it comes to dollars and cents, I think I'm about as fiscally conservative as anybody that you've ever met. That government is too big, and that if we don't get government spending under control, that we're going to find ourselves without a country. We're going to find ourselves without health care unless we get these costs under control.
All right. News Talk 970 WMAY. Live in studio with Gary Johnson. He is running to get the Libertarian nomination to be president. Gary, you're going to be here in Springfield. You're in Springfield for the state Libertarian convention that's going on tonight over at the Hilton Garden Inn, and you're going to be taking part in a debate. Talk about your other Libertarian candidates out there and what sets you apart from them.
Well, of course, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that I was the guy to actually carry this mantle. So looking at it objectively, I would vote for myself. But I think there are a lot of really very well-meaning candidates out there, and everybody's making their pitch. And a Libertarian Party, very inclusive. So there'll probably be about a dozen presidential candidates there tonight. And I'm confident when it comes to this process. And if I don't end up being the nominee, hey, so be it. But you'll never be the nominee if you don't give it a shot. And like I say, I think I have a unique set of qualifications. I'm an athlete. I'm an entrepreneur. I got to be governor of New Mexico for 8 years. So all these crazy things that I'm talking about actually have a history, and I'm very proud of that history.
Gary Johnson, thank you so much for coming into the studio and hanging out with us this morning. Greatly appreciate it.
Greg, great being with you. And I don't know if he mentioned it, but Greg's going to be a moderator tonight at this debate.
That's true.
Really,
yeah,
terrific.
You'll be able to come and see me because that's what everybody wants to see tonight is me.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Everything is secondary after that.
Right.
Anyway,
Gary Johnson, thank you so much for taking time with us. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you tonight, okay?
All right, great.
News Talk 970 WMAY with Bishop on Air. Let's head over to the newsroom where Mike Winmacher stands by.